Hey guys, I'm kind of running out of juice of things to talk about. Speaking of juice, this video is fueled by Geek Bar, Blue Rancher, and American Club Tobacco. And of course, water. So this is exactly how I did it, man. There's no knocking it because this is my true story of how I created over $1 billion. Whenever it was time to make a decision, I always moved in the direction of money, and it was really as simple as that. I believe in energy in. If you put your focus into something, something will come out the other side. And that's pretty much what it comes down to. It requires sacrifice. I sacrificed probably a good 10 years of my life going through things so that I could create lasting wealth. And it never ends, until the day I die. I'm going to suffer in some other area of my life in order to provide for my financial area. I even put my health to the side. I became addicted to sugar, And when I say I'm a billionaire, I mean a billion net worth. I'm a cash broke billionaire. So I'm on disability right now, but I have over $1 billion of net worth. And I'm going to tell you exactly how I created over $1 billion in net worth. Time will tell what actually happens with me moving forward. I will say that I wanted money more than anything else. I had this understanding in my mind that money equals the good life. And that's all any of us want, is the good life, right? I had a vision in my mind of what wealth would be like, and I just kept moving toward that and moving toward that. And taking every chance I could get to make a little bit of money. I applied for my first job when I was 12 years old. I got my first job when I was 15 years old. I started my first business when I was 3 years old, and I have been a full-time entrepreneur for over 10 years. I started entrepreneurship full-time at the age of 19. I graduated from high school when I was 19, and then I went on to college. I decided that that's not what I wanted for my life. I would rather die broke than be like a career employee, like a cadet to the general. I wanted to be the fucking CEO, and I am the fucking CEO. And I want to be the CEO moving forward. And that's just it's a life of compromise. It's a life of giving to my money situation. I might take from other areas of my life to give to my money situation, but one thing I never sacrifice is my kids' lives. I have one kid right now that I haven't seen in 8 years, and I made a video on this earlier. My exact path was a little bit crooked. It was there was many twists and turns, and it was like a winding road, and business has been the all-encompassing kind of focus. There's at least bare minimum of 50% of my focus has been into business for the past 10 years. I was told at the age of 12 years old that if you want money, you got to go make your own money. My dad or my stepdad just had bought his first house, and he didn't really have the money to be giving me $20 or $10 every few days. He said, if you want money, you got to go make money. So that's what I did. I started selling dope. And I learned that crime doesn't pay. I wasn't like selling dope on like a large scale, making a couple bucks a day, just to support my habit. Smoking weed, I smoked weed every day for like 5 years, which is always promoted in the media as like, if you smoke weed every day, you must be a cool motherfucker. So I thought I was just like being cool smoking weed every day. Turns out I got diagnosed with schizophrenia at the age of 17. That's the diagnosis. Schizophrenia is like a blanket term for like hundreds of things that could be wrong with you. Just like bipolar disorder is like an all-encompassing thing. It represents many different problems. So I don't eat poop. I don't like hear voices in my head. I have like hallucinations and delusions from years of doing hallucinogens. And basically, like, I would smoke weed and then I would sit on the computer and watch like crazy videos, like trippy videos. And that made me like weird, It took me a long time to be able to just have a conversation. I spent most of those years that you're supposed to be developing your social skills and how to talk to people and stuff. I spent most of those years sequestered into like my grandmother's basement, just like smoking weed by myself. And I did not have the nerve to even like say hi to somebody. I didn't know how to have a conversation. I didn't know how to deal with people too well, which now I do. Now I'm like an alpha male, but at the age of 18, 19, I was like kind of like not even like, now I'm like top of the food chain. I'm like the top level of the pyramid. But back then I was like at the bottom level. So I'm trying to just stay at the top level for the rest of my life. And so anyways, how I created $1 billion was I just kind of hunkered down and I would move through ideas very quickly. I would move between ideas very quickly. If something didn't make me money for like 2 or 3 months, I would just move on to the next idea because I had it fixated in my mind that a good idea that's going to make me a lot of money, is going to sustain a lot of money for the long term. Now that's a business that's going to make money very quickly early on. If I could make like $1,000 in a business in the first 2 months, now that's a business that I could take to like over 100 million. And that was my goal, was to make 100 million over the course of like 25 years. At the age of 19 or 20 years old, I set a goal to make $100 million over 25 years. And I just kept moving around from different ideas. I started an Amazon store, which made me money like overnight. And within like 3 or 4 months, I scaled that business to 6 figures. I had then they kicked me out of the house. Then my parents kicked me out of the house. I was living with my grandmother at the time. And I had been living with my grandmother since the age of 16. And between like words between my mother and my grandmother was dying of cancer, so I had to leave the house. And I basically, had to make my way in the world. And at first, I got a job to pay my bills. I had like $2,000 in the bank. And you know, That I was able to live in my own apartment for the first time, but I was living in the ghetto. So that was bad, and how in music, how they kind of glorify the ghetto, but then they say, like, I found out why everyone's trying to make it out of the fucking ghetto. It's like, basically, and I lived in ghettos for like 8 years. And basically, I stumbled into a method strictly, purely by like the destiny that I created for myself through years of decision making. I stumbled into my method of making money, which is in basically, I don't know if I want to say what it is that I do. Basically, I deal in premium web assets. Like, I can't say what I do because then I'll create competition. But I found a method to make a lot of money very quickly. With one single transaction, I went from basically having like $50 in my pocket to having like over 100,000 or 1 million in net worth. And the unveiling of like the mystery of destiny became more apparent to me that like we're all living in delusion. We're all living in delusion. You know, you know, you don't know like the difference between a God-made destiny versus like a man-made destiny. For me, at the age of 6 years old or 3 years old, it simply was not difficult for me to make the right choice, which was to make as much money as possible, as quickly as possible, so that I could raise my family and provide for my future generations. My future generations are probably going to be eating off of money that I've made just in the past like 2 or 3 years. I have enough money so that my future generations will be taken care of for the next like 5 generations. This dawn of the internet age is providing so much opportunity. Basically, I can't tell you what I do, but if you utilize the internet, I will tell you this as a peace offering, as a token of appreciation for you watching this video. Utilize the internet. The internet is the only way in the past 5,000 years that we've been able to get our products in front of customers for like $5. You could utilize Facebook ads for like $5 and get your products in front of customers. And it's like basically, I bumped into my destiny at the age of 28, which basically means that I just started to double down. I doubled down and doubled down. Soon enough, I was worth 70 million. Then I was worth 450 million within like a couple months. Then I kind of took a break for a little while. And when you find that golden opportunity to make a shitload of money, just go all in. It's not about making as much money as possible. Let's talk about a concept or a subject that I talked about in a previous video. If you could print money, for example, if you have like a money printer in your basement, how long do you think it would take until you're satisfied? Would you just sit there and print money for the rest of your life? Or would you get enough money to be happy, and then or would you get enough money to be happy and then live your life, which is basically what I'm working on doing right now. Is like by the time I'm like 40, I just want to be able to just live my life. I predict that at the age of 48, I will be in a position where I could just go and be free and just spend money. I don't have to worry about where my next dollar is coming from. I'll have enough money. Usually, you only have to get rich once. You know, you only really have to get rich once. Now that I'm a billionaire, I might drop below $1 billion for like a little while. I might like drop below $1 billion for like a little while, but not for long, because I could just do the same little thing that I did the first time and just do it again, you know. So decision making is a key aspect of creating and forging your destiny. Is like very like, maybe some people can forge their destiny via pure like free will and brute force and just like effort, but for the most part, in my experience, becoming a billionaire, it was always about like becoming a billionaire was always like you know, decision making and those agreements that you make between you and the creator. And that's just the damn truth. And I'm spitting facts just like you guys enjoy the straight facts. Success happens in the mind first. You know, when that little voice pops into your head and says like, what do you want to do with the next 15 years of your life? Say like, if you're like between the ages of 18 and 35, I would say like, probably you should use that time to make as much money as possible so that you can be like financially free by the time you're like 50, financially abundant and free by the time you're like 50, and you'll never have to worry about money ever again. So success happens in the mind, and that's the point where I want to put the exclamation mark and say, you know, you make choices, you forge your path by making choices, and then you just kind of automatically go in that direction. I still am learning how to work with the cosmos and the flow of things and how to make decisions. I'm not an expert, you know, but I've created over $1 billion, and that's how I did it, by making choices. The redemptive factor in simply making a choice is very powerful, and that's what created for me $1 billion or billions of dollars.